Hello everybody, welcome back. Unversed podcast. Today we are actually talking about a brand new manga called Radiant. It's going to be published by Viz. And just give me a hot second. Here we go. Radiant is a supernatural action and adventure series created by French-born artist and writer Tony Valente. So already we're at a different type of manga, right? Not from a weekly magazine, nothing like that. This is from France, from a French artist. So that's pretty interesting, right? A Japanese-produced anime adaptation of Valente's manga will premiere this fall. Crazy, right? Especially because, Volume 1's barely coming out on the 11th. And the fact that we're getting an anime for it, that's pretty nuts, guys. That's good on them. Radiant is rated T for teens and will be published in print for $9.99 US, guys. And of course, it'll be digitally anywhere you can get your mangas. So, Volume 1, it does feature 8 full color pages, which is rare for a manga, right? Because usually when you read mangas, when they've been published into volumes, it doesn't really carry the color pages, right? They just monochrome it, and sometimes it is lackluster when it does that. And so the most interesting thing about the color pages here in Radiant is that it's sort of like that plastic type of paper, you know? So that's very interesting right off the bat. The fact that they're doing that, which also I think shows more of what type of manga this is, you know, the way it's produced and all that. So it will be published bi-monthly for the volumes on Viz. So that's pretty cool, man. So let's talk about it. I read the first volume, which was about, I think it was like 8 chapters or something like that. It's a pretty decent size. You know, it's literally just the average size volume that you get from Viz. And I checked it out. It is an interesting story. I will give it that. It's a world. I'll just read the synopsis on the back. Evil creatures called Nemesis fall from the skies, and the only one who can fight them are wizards, infected ones who survived Nemesis's corruption. Seth, the main character, one of these survivors, vows not only to fight the Nemesis, but find their mystical nest, Radiant, and destroy it. Seth has big goals of defeating Nemesis, but first he must earn the trust of the very villagers he wants to protect. Not an easy task when those who use magic are just feared as the Nemesis they fight. Even worse, Seth can barely control his monstrous powers. It'll take more than brute strength, although it'll take that too, to get Seth's quest out of the boonies and into the big time. So, it's an interesting premise, right? And, so these wizards, right, when they get infected, right, so now they have the chance to fight them, because if a normal human touches a Nemesis, they die, right? They just can't do it. And so these people actually can, because they've been infected by said Nemesis. And once they are infected, they get physical attributions of what it is. Oh, okay, so this is the part I didn't know. I went to the Tony Valente's Wikipedia, and I guess it's up to volume 8 as of last year. So he was publishing 1 volume a year since 2013. Well, he dropped 3 and 4 in 2015, and then 3 in a row last year. Okay. So Viz is just gonna be, I guess, expanding the distribution of this manga. So that's pretty cool. He's also done Speed Angels, Hana Atori, Sun Girls, and the 4 Princesses of Ganahan. That's pretty cool. That's the part that, I don't think that was in the press release for this. But anywho, art style is pretty great. It's pretty clean. It looks like a manga, you know? One thing I will say about it though is I think you can tell this is not from Japan. mainly because I think Radiant feels like it's inspired by manga and anime, right? I think based off how the art style looks and how the facial expressions aren't as what you would expect, I think, especially like from stuff like Shonen Jump. And definitely like with the comedic, timing in each chapter, it's very, very influenced by, Japanese manga, shonen manga specifically. So I think that's fine to a point. This is just, it's a homage, I guess, to, just manga, right? Shonen manga. Like this is how I was inspired. So I want to share those feelings out in this story is an element I can definitely feel here. And, it does have the classic tropes you would find in a typical shonen manga. This does feel like it could use some work, I think, because, there are elements where I feel, yes, that does show up in shonen mangas, but I think it's better executed in other mangas rather than here. And it's not to hate on the guy. I mean, once you do this, more often, right? The longer you do it, the better you're gonna get. So, I feel like with time, this manga could get better. I think it's fine on its own, right? It does pull early on a typical shonen, trope about the main character being too much of a good guy to trust everybody. And now like that's how he grew, this and that. And then we get introduced to this school for wizards to help fight the Nemesis. And, like I said in the synopsis, the interesting part of Nemesis is people are weary of wizards because they could just be humanoid Nemesis type of deal, right? So that's an interesting part to that. It's small cast so far. We only have 3 characters that are important. And again, it's just the first volume, so it's literally as introductory as it could be into both the world, characters, and where the plot is going. So, I will say definitely wait it out. I would say check out Radiant if you're interested in this kind of, fantasy type of genre and just see where volume 2 goes, right? Because of, this guy, Seth, is the main character, and of course, main characters have to be unique, so wizards, they have to use magical items. They have to use those to tap into magic. But here, Seth doesn't need any items. He could just use magic when he wants, which is a very rare thing, and he could get, I guess, severe trouble for it, so that's a trope that he has to overcome, right? Because him being a child, he does get immature, lax a little too much, to the point where there's consequences of those type of actions. And we do see that in this volume. So other than that, I mean, everything else seems pretty fine about this manga. And I mean, yeah, it definitely does take a lot of influence from popular shonen mangas and anime. I think the designs are fine as well. It's nothing that you normally see. I mean, clearly I'm just looking at some pages. I'm like, oh, yep, that's from a Studio Ghibli movie. This type of thing, I'm pretty sure that's from Fairy Tail or One Piece, like the comedic senses of that. And, I think some of the, panels could be a little bit better when it comes to displaying action, right? Or just even movement in general. Because some of it I felt like could have been, different angles to really show what's actually happening. Because when I first saw this, this panel of Seth saying farewell to his master, I was like, I had to look at it twice. I was like, what's going on here? Cause it was just so flat, Yeah. So yeah, interesting world so far. And yeah, so chapter 2's cover is very, very much, Toriyama's like, concept art for Dragon Ball. But yeah, I mean, everything else is great. Like the art's clean, and they see, I'm looking at another page right here from the first chapter. That's really good stuff, a spreadsheet of, if you will, for the character. And, yeah, I am kind of looking forward to see what else we're going to do, because mainly just for different enemy types, and are there going to be humanoid versions of the Nemesis, how shonen are we going to get, and how much deviation are we going to get from the typical tropes, is what I think is important to look at when you're reading this. So great, cool that Viz is grabbing up all these independents, right? Like we reviewed That Blue Sky Feeling. That's from a blog site. It's a webcomic getting publicized, getting officialized essentially. So shout outs to them for doing all that great stuff. So again, this is coming out on the 11th of this month. And just again, shout outs to Viz for giving us a chance to review it. As always, great to work with them when it comes to these mangas. We do have another one in the backlog to talk about, but I will do that with somebody else. It'll be a 2-man episode for these reviews because I've already read what they gave us. So as soon as we can get that going on, that'll be up. So look forward to that. And thanks you for listening as always, guys. If you want to stay caught up with us, remember you can always follow us on social media at unversedpodcast anywhere you go. You got to check out, we'll let you know when the latest episodes are coming out and what conventions we're going to be at. So that's always great to see. And of course, you can email us at unversedpodcast@gmail.com for any questions, comments, concerns. If you've read Radiant, give us your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. And again, thank you for listening to the episode. And as always, we will talk to you next time.